1 week from now, the Dodgers report to Arizona chasing something baseball almost never sees, a third straight title.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? I'm Harry Ruiz. That's Travis Rodgers, and it's time for Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. On today's show, the Dodgers are once again everywhere on the international stage as the WBC rosters were revealed. We're talking about Yoshinobu Yamamoto and a ranking that I think misses the mark in a big way. 7th best starting pitcher in baseball? Really? But first, the simple but powerful reality that Dodgers baseball, Travis, is officially 1 week away. What to expect in Arizona and why this spring feels different than most.
Music to my ears. A week away, pitchers and catchers reporting, and you're going to see a lot of bright sunshine in Arizona and Florida and other places. Cannot wait, Harry.
No doubt about it. And shout out to our buddies over at TurboTax who are presenting today's Locked On Dodgers. Thank you. Thank you so much for showing love to our show. Without them, we can't go. Same thing. Shout out to all the sponsors over here at Locked On Dodgers. You can catch Travis every weekday afternoon from 3 to 6 on 710 ESPN LA, holding it down on the Travis and DeMarco show. And if you're not in Southern California or you're on the move, the ESPN LA app keeps you plugged in no matter where you are. As for me, when I'm not on the call for USC football or Raiders games in Espanol, this is home base, breaking down Dodgers baseball with you day in and day out. If today's your first time here, welcome. You picked a good place to land. If you're an everydayer, you already know this show doesn't work without you. Are you watching on YouTube? Tap that like button, jump into the comments, and make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss an episode. Listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your pods, a quick 5-star rating helps this show reach even more Dodgers fans. And if you ever want to get your voice on our show, the Locked On Dodgers listener line is always open. 279-3-LOCKED or 279-356-2533. We receive texts, we receive voicemails, and we'll be hitting that listener line up this upcoming week. All right. And it all starts in a week. We are officially 1 week, 7 days away from pitchers and catchers reporting. And if you're a Dodgers fan, this is where the season really begins. Friday, February 17th in Camelback Ranch in Glendale, Arizona. First official workouts start that day, and the full squad shows up February 17th in 11 days. And look, spring training always feels hopeful, but this year's for Dodgers fans, Travis, it's different. The Dodgers are trying to go 3 in a row, and it's like every year, the responsibility, the expectations, they just keep leveling up.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to say it. I don't think that the expectations can get higher. Just by definition, the expectations for the Dodgers are win the World Series again for the 3rd year in a row. And we have not seen that in the better part of 25 years. And they've got a chance to do it. And, I was looking at some stuff yesterday after we were done doing our podcast. And, we know the Dodgers won the World Series. We know they went 13-4 through the postseason, but they hit 200 in the World Series. They got outscored by about 12 runs in the process of that 7-game series, and they still got it done. And my point of that is, that's how weird baseball can get every once in a while. So it could get weird all over again, but gut in the other direction, that the Dodgers could go out there and be the best team in baseball, which I think they will be. They could go out there and have the best roster, which I don't think there's any question that they have that. But that doesn't really guarantee you anything once you get into October. I do think it guarantees them a seat at the table in October. But once that gets started, who knows? And we're going to start to get a look at some new faces. You're going to get to see Kyle Tucker in a Dodger uniform, Edwin Díaz in a Dodger uniform. So, and I think some of the things that we've talked about over the last year and coming into this year, like what's Tanner Scott going to look like this year? There's a lot of stuff on this roster that I think is interesting. When does Blake Snell start to throw? When does Tommy Edman's ankles, start to look so he can be like Tommy Edman? There's a lot of stuff on the table for the Dodgers in spring this year.
And the awesome part, Travis, 10 days before pitchers and catchers report, Shohei Ohtani was already out there. Anthony Banda was already out there. You had more players that were already showing up early to get ready. And Ohtani was a kind of a different thing because he was out there doing promotion via satellite for his kids' book. He was recording a commercial as well. And it's like, hey, that's part of what it takes with being the most popular player in the sport and one of the most popular athletes in the entire world. But Camelback Ranch, home base once again, fans, it's awesome for them because they can attend workouts for free because yes, they do have the games that you have to pay to go watch, and everything is relatively close out there in Arizona. But if you want to go to the practice fields, just show up at 9 a.m. and you can get to see plenty of familiar faces plus some new ones, and that's something cool for Dodgers fans as well. Your first opportunity to see Kyle Tucker in full uniform, your first opportunity to see Edwin Díaz in full uniform, and it's just like you see this team go and grow and keep on getting better year after year after year, because I said the expectation every year it's to win the World Series, but last year it was we want to go back to back. You do that, first team in over a quarter century to go back to back, and then now you're trying to go and tie those Yankees from 98 through 2000s and go 3 in a row, the A's from 72 to 74, 3 in a row, and the Dodgers, they're not afraid to get the big guys in there, the big guns, the Edwin Díaz, the Kyle Tucker, the new fellas. But also, this opportunity right here, you can get to see Josue de Paula, Sahir Hope, a lot of the prospects that are trying to get an opportunity with this franchise that is loaded, but at the same time, any moment, like last year, Alex Freeland, he showed up. And the pitchers, they showed up. So DePaula, Hope, it's like, hey, here's your opportunity to show up for both management, but also the fans.
Yeah, no, you're right. And spring training is a great chance to see some guys that aren't your stars. The stars are going to play some, but they're not going to play a ton. Like Freddie Freeman's not taking 5 at-bats a game in his spring training. He might take 2, maybe 3, but they're going to move some guys into those roles. So some guys are going to get some opportunities. I think what's really interesting for the Dodgers specifically is this is their first spring in a couple of years where there isn't an early start, that they actually get the benefit of a normal spring training where they can go through it. They're going to go and they'll open the season stateside. They're not going to Korea. They're not going to Japan. They don't have to take that international trip, go over there, play a couple of games, do some exhibition stuff, and then come all the way back, sit around on ice for a while, play the Angels in the Freeway Series, and then start the season. They can just start the season. So I think that's interesting. I think that when we're talking about guys like Mookie and Freddie and Shohei and Yamamoto and all of these guys that have been around for the run of the last 2 years, the offseason is incredibly important, and making sure that you get your rest, making sure that you get your recovery for older players like that, I think is really important. So, I don't know if they'll hit the ground running. I don't really care all that much for those vet guys because I know they're going to be ready when it comes time to go. But it's first time in a minute that the Dodgers have had a normal spring training, and I think it's coming at exactly the right time.
And that's huge. Just the travel component of it, going all the way to Asia and being on that flight for that long, it gets to you. And then you have to come back home, and it's the same deal, a long flight back home. And also you play exhibition games over there. You start your regular season over there and then come back home and go back to preseason action before you have the home opening day. That's an impressive and an awesome observation right there, Travis, on what this is. And now instead, they're showing up, pitchers and catchers, next week, and their first preseason, their first Cactus League schedule game is on February 21st. It's against the Angels. And Travis, there's also a fun, interesting quirk on the schedule this year. They're going to be playing Team Mexico in an exhibition, and that's pretty cool. That's something different, something that's going to, for fans like me who are Mexican-American, a lot of Mexican fans, for the Dodgers being in Arizona so close to just being able to take the drive over to through Tucson to Phoenix, that's awesome to go and watch that. Heck, I'll be rooting for both teams that same day, knowing it's an exhibition game and that it doesn't count. That's going to be fun to watch. In the Freeway Series, that's a tradition. You go to Anaheim, you finish in LA, or start in LA, finish in Anaheim. That's also another great tradition, because then March 26th. That's when everybody is like, okay, this is where we're locked, we're loaded, we're ready to kick things off. And I'll be honest, Travis, I've never been to spring training because I've been living outside of LA for 13 years now. And the time that I spend my money to go watch the Dodgers, I rather it be a game where it actually counts. So I've been to Wrigley, I've been to San Francisco, to Arizona, Dodger Stadium. I rather spend money when the games actually count, but I know that spring training is a can't miss for a lot of Dodgers fans, for a lot of families who don't have to spend the type of money that it costs to go watch our boys in blue in the regular season. And also the access that you have to players is way different than you have during a regular season game.
Yeah, the stakes are so much lower for all the reasons that you mentioned. The cost is lower. It's not nothing, but it's lower, and the access is very different, and everybody seems to be a little bit more relaxed. There's a little bit more of a chill vibe in the air as opposed to the intensity of a regular season game. So I haven't been to Dodger spring training in Arizona. I actually lived briefly as a kid in Phoenix a million years ago, and used to love when spring training would come because my dad would take me out and we'd go. The Cubs were a really popular team at the time in Arizona, and everybody that was from Chicago had retired in Phoenix, and it was a really fun time. So it always brings back very fond memories. The Dodgers, of course, were in Vero Beach at that time in my life, but I've never seen a Dodger spring training game. I've seen a million regular season games, but never a spring training game.
Maybe we have to sync up a trip to head out there and check out our boys in blue in Arizona. Not too far from either of us. I'm over here in Vegas. You're over there in LA. 5-hour drive. We'll make it there. All right. Next on Locked On Dodgers, we've got a ranking that had me doing a double take. Yoshinobu Yamamoto checks in at 7th on MLB's Network's list of top starting pitchers. And I'm not sure how you watch October and come to that conclusion. Hiring isn't about filling a seat. It's about finding the right person. Someone with the experience and background who can actually move your business forward. And if that's what you're looking for, Indeed sponsored jobs is the way to go. Instead of crossing your fingers and hoping the right candidate finds your post, Indeed puts your job in front of people who already meet what you're looking for based on things like skills, certifications, and location. That means less time weeding through the wrong fits and more time talking to candidates who actually make sense. And here's a number that really puts things into perspective. In the time it took me to say this, 27 hires were made on Indeed worldwide, according to Indeed data. So if you're hiring, stop searching and start connecting with qualified candidates faster using Indeed sponsored jobs. And right now, Locked On Dodgers listeners can get a $75 sponsored job credit to give your job the premium visibility it deserves. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now kick it up a notch. Go ad-free by going to our Everydayer Club and getting Locked On Dodgers with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more. All for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to LockedOnDodgers.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. 7th? You've got to be kidding me. MLB Network's annual top 10 starting pitchers right now list is out, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto finally makes his debut on the shredder. That part, fair. Where he lands, 7th, I say, what? And look, I understand who's at the top, right? Tarek Skubal, Paul Skeens, they just won the Cy Young Awards. No argument there. But when you look at the names ranked ahead of Yamamoto after that, that's where I start scratching my head. And look, they're all great pitchers. Wheeler, Sale, Sanchez, Crochet, awesome guys, right? But here's my issue. What exactly are we valuing here? Because, Travis, we know the Cy Young Award is a regular season award. The votes are submitted before the playoffs start, so it doesn't matter what Yoshi did after the regular season ended. But this award, you can include the postseason as well, or not this award, this list. And Yamamoto, when you include what he did in October, he doesn't just belong in the top 5. He belongs in the top 3 because look at his numbers. Regular season, he was a beast. Postseason, he became an even bigger monster. Am I exaggerating right here, or is it correct for Yamamoto to be at 7th place?
I think 1 and 2 are correct. I'm with you on that. I think that Skubal and Skeens have separated themselves from the pack. I think that is a fair distinction to make, that there's 1 and 2. And quite frankly, I don't even know if there's a 1 and a 2. It might be a 1 and a 1. And then, we go straight
1A, 1B.
Yeah, they're remarkable. But I think when you go 2 through about where they have Yamamoto, 3 to about where you have Yamamoto, I think if we're doing it like this, I think if you said, we're just going to put all those names in a hat and you're just going to pull them out at random, is anybody really wrong? I don't think so. Now, I'm with you. If I get to look at the names and pick, I'm going to pick Yamamoto next, because what he is the ultimate gamer. What he is just an incredible competitor. And so are those other guys, quite frankly. But we get to see Yamamoto, once a week, all season long. So obviously there's an affection for him. He what he did in the postseason, like you mentioned, is a big part of it. But if you're just telling me that on any given night, Yamamoto's going to pitch against Zach Wheeler, it's like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, this thing really could kind of go either way. They're both incredible pitchers. But I'm with you. I would have liked to have seen him a little bit higher, but I don't think it's wide. Like, had he been 13th, that would be like, wait, what in the world are we doing? But that next group of guys, I think, is similar to that top 2, where put him in the pile and you could almost pick anybody out and make a reasonable argument for it. I'd still put him at the top. I agree with you, or 3rd, but I don't think it's crazy that they have him where they have him. I'd have him higher though too.
And Yoshi not making the top 10 in 2024, I understand. He missed a big chunk of the season and then came in the postseason, and he was great in the playoffs, but he missed that big portion of the regular season. So I get it. This year, Yoshi didn't miss a single start. 12-8, 2.49 ERA over 30 starts. More importantly, he stayed healthy. And then October happens and he becomes the MVP of the World Series. 6 postseason appearances, 5 starts, 1.45 ERA across 37 innings, back-to-back complete games. I mean, then you go and close the World Series on 0 days rest, and that's not just dominance, that's legacy building stuff. And who else in that list did something like that, Travis? You have the incredible regular seasons of Skubal and Skeens, but then you go with the rest of the guys, and nobody put his teams on his shoulders the way that Yoshinobu Yamamoto did.
No, that's for sure. That's for sure. One of the things that I think is, and it doesn't bother me, but it's one of those things like, man, I wish we could really kind of sink our teeth into this, is go back to that wild ass 18 inning game. Who was up in the bullpen if they didn't win that game? He was going to pitch in that game too. Like it really is. It was going to be him or Miguel Rojas, but he's down there. He's loosening up. That, of course, is the Will Klein game before Freddie hits the home run. It's like, all right, they've gone through Clayton Kershaw. They've gone through Henriquez. They've gone through Klein. They went through everybody that there possibly was to have on this team. And there's Yamamoto, who had pitched the day before. And like, here we go again. And that's going to kind of get lost to history, unfortunately, because he actually never did come in. But that he was willing to do it, I think, speaks to what you're talking about. I think that this year, if he has, I don't even want to say he has to have another year like last year, because that's about as good as it gets. But if he has another year where he is among those guys, I think you're going to see him start to creep up, because you will have seen a larger sample, 3 years, 2 of them being very healthy. But I also think there's a chance where we're going to see him take a breather at some point during this season.
Yeah, I mean, this year there was no smoke and mirrors. This was elite, sustainable dominance from Yoshinobu Yamamoto. And then it brought me back to the World Series in 2024, where the Dodgers were losing Game 5, and they were already trying to get logistics to get Yamamoto over to LA before the game ended. And then, no, he stayed. They win the World Series. That's awesome. Over here, Yoshi out there in the bullpen. And I was texting friends. I was like, crap, are we going to use Kike? Are we going to use Miguel Rojas right here? Because who else is going to pitch for us in this situation? And I remember texting one of my bosses with the Raiders. He was out at the stadium. I'm like, dude, Yoshi is warming up. He's like, you got to be kidding me. And fortunately, we didn't get to need to see that situation. But just him raising his hand and saying, like, I'm here. That is like a different type of monster in him.
You know, there's another moment that he had last year too, that it was probably at the lowest ebb of the Dodgers season last year. Remember, he took that no-hitter into the ninth inning, 2 outs in the ninth inning, and it gets, not only does he lose the no-hitter, but then the Dodger bullpen burned the stadium to the ground and let the entire game slip. And he kind of said, yeah, all right, whatever. And he just kind of kept firing and firing and firing. I think he showed a great deal of leadership, a great deal of team building by, I think a lot of guys in that moment, I don't think anybody would have said it out loud, but it would have been written all over their face. Like, dude, what the just happened? And he just went right back to work. And that was kind of the beginning of when the Dodgers really started to put it together. It was the low point for him, but it was also the beginning of the best point for him.
The season could have gone down the drain if they had just let that moment kill them. And it was the opposite. It was the moment where they started going upwards. And honestly, if this ranking fuels Yamamoto just a little bit, good luck to the rest of the league. Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, the Dodgers once again dominate the World Baseball Classic rosters. 8 players, 4 pools, and plenty of extra rooting interest for every Dodger fan.
Tax season doesn't have to take over your life, I promise. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork, which means instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person, or you can connect online. They're going to handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to get you every deduction. You can upload your docs, you can go about your day and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It is a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it. And for a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year. Just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today.
Don't forget to follow Locked On Dodgers not only on YouTube, but on X, Instagram, and TikTok as well. You can find Travis on social media at Travis Rodgers on X and Instagram. Meanwhile, I'm at Harry Ruiz on X, at Harry_Ruiz on Instagram, and at Harry Ruiz_ on TikTok. Dodgers everywhere. If it feels like the Dodgers are everywhere in the World Baseball Classics, that's because they are. More than 300 MLB affiliated players, yes, I counted them, are headed to the 2026 WBC, and 8 are coming from the Dodgers organization. 5 on the 40-man roster, 3 more from the farm system. The headliners, they're obvious, Travis. Shohei Ohtani, Yoshinobu Yamamoto representing Japan, Edwin Díaz suiting up for Puerto Rico, Will Smith catching for Team USA, and Hae-Sung Kim playing for Korea. That alone gives you plenty of reasons to tune in, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's one of the rare teams where you can almost decide who you want to root for on any given moment, right? Because when I watch these games, I'm looking for Dodgers. That, yes, it would be nice to see, a run back of what we saw a few years ago, Team USA and Japan. I think those are probably, and I throw the DR in there too, Puerto Rico. There's just so many good teams that are going to be in this tournament that I find myself rooting more for players than I do for teams themselves. And just about every team, and they think about how many more they could have had. You could have had Freddie Freeman. You could have had Andy Pages. You could have had Teoscar Hernandez. There are just so many other guys that you could have put. Roki Sasaki could have been on these teams that it's super fun to watch. I find myself rooting for the Dodgers more than I find myself rooting for the teams, but I can't wait to get it. So you kind of watch it through some fingers over your eyes because you don't want anybody to get an injury, but it could happen in a spring training game against the Brewers too. So you never know what's going to happen, but I can't wait for it. I love this tournament.
I had to knock on wood, but it's 100% accurate. It's like you're just hoping nothing happens to any player, not just Dodgers players, but any player in the World Baseball Classic. And look, what I really love as well is the depth of representation for the boys in blue. Jake Geloff, a second-round pick in 2023, will play for Israel. Antonio Knows, a pitcher from the OKC Comets, joins the Great Britain. Chandrik Oduber, acquired in a trade last year with Kansas City, represents the Netherlands. So high A, triple A, single A, respectively. And they have the minor league ranks covered for the boys in blue in this international tournament.
Well, I think what's so interesting is that this goes to show you something that I've mentioned a lot. I know that you've mentioned it as well, is the Dodgers are really good at drafting and developing. They're very good at figuring out who the best guys are, even if they're not necessarily picking towards the top of the draft. Those names that you just mentioned, those are the best guys from those in specific countries. And that they're finding these guys in all these different ways just speaks to how many different ways they can put together a great team. And I'm incredibly optimistic that whatever happens in the salary structure moving forward, they're going to have this thing. I don't know if it'll be locked down the way it is right now, but I still think they have an inherent advantage just because they can find guys from Curacao. They can find guys from just about any corner of the world. They're going to be like, think about it. They go and they get Hassan Kim. They go and they find the two best guys in Japan. They just always are able to identify the guys that are going to translate the best. And they get a lot more hits than misses. And this is a great opportunity to just see these guys in competitive environments, because we probably won't see them in the major leagues this year. Or if we do, it'll be very, very, short stints more than likely. But this is an important tournament for everybody. Everybody's putting their best foot forward. And if you can do well in this against what is basically a major league tournament, most of these guys are major league players currently, like you mentioned, with 300 guys along the way. This is this bodes very well for what they might be able to do at the big league level.
And here's the fun part, too. With all these 8 selections, the Dodgers have at least one player in all 4 WBC pools. Pool A, Puerto Rico. Pool B, U.S. and Great Britain. Pool C, Japan and Korea. Pool D, Israel. So wherever you're watching, there's a Dodger to root for. And that's what you were talking about, Travis. It's like, hey, we like representing our national teams. I like both Team USA and Team Mexico. But now I'm going to be like, hey, Team Japan, obviously, Shohei Ohtani, now he's one of our guys after he signed with the team in 2024. Same thing with Yoshi. But then you look at all the other guys and be like, hey, those names that I just brought up from the minor leaguers, we can watch a Team Israel game or a Team Netherlands game and be like, hey, that guy's a Dodger. Gives you an extra excuse to watch the game.
Oh, no question about it. Look, it's funny you said that, because I put a smile on my face when you said it. Like, you have to watch Shohei and Ruiz. I'll be honest, Harry, and anybody that's listened to Locked On Dodgers knows this. Anybody that's listened to my radio show knows this. I am not an Angel fan. Okay, I'm not, for a variety of reasons. That being said, even when Shohei was on the Angels, it's like, I'm rooting for that dude. Like, there's just something about him that is so unbelievably watchable and likable and compelling. It's just, and you can't, I've never met any, I know people are like, oh my God, here comes Shohei again. He's going to beat my team. But I don't know anybody that roots against him. Because he's doing so many things that are so extraordinary. Even if he's not like he was on the Angels, and I don't root for the Angels, but it's like I found myself rooting for Shohei Ohtani. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's some fans of other teams that are going to tune into some of those Japan games just to see Ohtani. And I challenge you to root against the modern day Babe Ruth doing what he's doing, because it's impossible not to put a smile on your face.
No doubt about it. And look, this right here is another reminder that this organization, the Dodgers, isn't just dominant domestically. It's a global powerhouse. And when those players return to the boys in blue, they're going to bring some awesome experiences, even more confidence and momentum that carries into another championship chase, because spring training is cool, but getting a couple of weeks of international play in there where the intensity is higher, these guys are going to be ready to jump in there to the field once opening day rolls around.
Oh yeah, no. They do it exactly the right amount of time, right? They do it once every 3 years, which feels just about perfect, because you couldn't have this kind of intensity every year. It would become less special just because it comes around too often. But spring training is fun, but it's not competitive. Especially from a fan's perspective. Like, if the Dodgers lose every spring training game 10-4, I don't care. Right. It doesn't matter. They're not putting their best foot forward. They're not trying to win the game. They're trying to get guys healthy. They're trying to get guys ready. They're trying to see what they have in the minor leagues and develop some guys. But Freddie Freeman could go through spring training and bat $150. I don't care. I know that Freddie Freeman's going to show up in the regular season and be Freddie Freeman. The WBC allows us to have outcomes, allows us to have moments that are exciting based on whether or not a guy gets a hit or doesn't, based on whether or not a guy strikes a guy out. That in spring training, that doesn't exist. It does in the WBC. And for a couple of weeks, that's awesome.
No doubt about it. I can't wait for that tournament to kick off. Let us know in the comments below which national team you're going to be rooting for, or if you're just rooting for players that are members of the Dodgers organization. All right, that'll do it for today's pod. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. We'll be back next week on Monday to talk all things Dodgers. I can't guarantee that my dog Raider will want to be a part of the show like he was unexpectedly today, but hey, we got to break the pie in 3 pieces, Travis.
That's right. As long as he doesn't take my share of the Locked On pod fortune, then it's all good.
If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. There you go. Well, he'll get the Everydayer Club piece of the pie. Get Locked On Dodgers ad-free plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedondodgers.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen Locked On MLB. We appreciate you riding with us. Until next time, keep it real. Keep it Dodger Blue.